Good morning, Gators. Today's breakfast biography is Ella Fitzgerald, the First Lady of Jazz. And this book was compiled by Megan Schonenberger. Ella Fitzgerald. On November 21st, 1934, a teenage girl walked onto the stage at the Apollo Theater. It was talent night. The girl was dressed in old clothes and men's boots. She was nervous, and she started to sing, but her voice cracked and she stopped. The audience grew impatient. A few people started to shout and boo. At this contest, members of the crowd booed at dancers and singers who did poorly. They cheered if the performers did well. The act that got the most cheers won the contest. The girl started again. She closed her eyes and sang. This time, her voice floated out over the audience. It filled the theater. When the song ended, the crowd cheered and yelled. Ella Fitzgerald had won first prize. This image is of the Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York. It started a talent night for young artists in 1934. This quote by Ella Fitzgerald says, "It's not easy for me to get up in front of a crowd of people. It used to bother me a lot." Ella Jane Fitzgerald was born on April 25th, 1917 in Newport News, Virginia. Her father, William, left the family before Fitzgerald's first birthday. Soon after, Fitzgerald's mother, Tempe, met Joseph De Silva. Fitzgerald moved with the two of them to Yonkers, New York. Her sister Frances was born in 1923. As a child, Fitzgerald enjoyed playing baseball. When she grew up, her favorite baseball team was the Los Angeles Dodgers. Here's a picture of the train station, and it was the center of Newport News, Virginia, where Fitzgerald was born. Fitzgerald loved singing. In church, she learned to sing gospel music. At home, she sang along with the hits on the radio. Fitzgerald learned to sound like her favorite singers, such as Louis Armstrong and Connie Boswell. Fitzgerald also loved to dance. She danced as much as she could. Sometimes, Fitzgerald put on dancing shows with her friends. She thought her feet, not her voice, would make her a star. Another quote from Ella says, "It isn't where you come from, it's where you're going that counts." In 1932, Fitzgerald's mother died from a heart attack. Fitzgerald did not want to live with De Silva, and she moved in with her aunt and cousin in Harlem, New York. Her sister soon joined her. Fitzgerald was not happy. She dropped out of school and ran away. She made up her mind to become famous in show business. This image shows Harlem in the early 1900s, and it was a home to many great African-American artists. On November 21st, 1934, Fitzgerald entered a talent contest at the Apollo Theater. She planned to dance. At the last minute, she changed her mind and chose to sing. She won first prize that night. During the next several months, she won many talent contests. In March 1935, she got her big break. A drummer named Chick Webb was looking for a woman to sing with his band. The saxophone player, Benny Carter, had heard her win first prize at the Apollo, and he found Fitzgerald and brought her to meet Webb. As a young woman, Fitzgerald was shy when not singing for a crowd. At first, Webb didn't want to hire Fitzgerald. Her hair was messy, her clothes were faded and torn. Still, he decided to give her a try. He asked her to sing with his band at their next job. If she did well, he would think about keeping her. This picture shows Chick Webb performing on his drums in 1935. Chick Webb, on giving Fitzgerald a chance to sing, said, "If the kids like her, she stays." Fitzgerald sang with the band for 2 weeks. Webb liked what he heard. He asked Fitzgerald to sign a contract, and she began singing regularly with the band. Fitzgerald had little experience, but learned quickly. It wasn't long before she knew the words and melodies to all the band's songs. The band members could see her talent. Here's a picture from 1938 of Fitzgerald singing with the Chick Webb Orchestra at a concert. Webb looked after Fitzgerald like a father and helped her find a place to stay and gave her money to buy clothing. Fitzgerald began making records. She made her first recording on June 12, 1935 with Chick Webb. It was called Love and Kisses. In 1938, she recorded A Tisket, a Tasket, and it was her first hit. The Chick Webb Orchestra often played at the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem. The Savoy was famous for band battles. During the event, 2 top bands took turns playing. At the end of the night, the crowd chose the best band. During the 1930s, many people went to the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem to listen to music and dance. And here's a picture of the Savoy. The Chick Webb Orchestra battled the Benny Goodman Orchestra on May 11th, 1937. Goodman was the top musician of the year. At least 4,000 people filled the Savoy. That night, Fitzgerald sang her best, and the crowd loved her. They locked arms and swayed to the music, and the Chick Webb Orchestra stole the show. The Benny Goodman Orchestra was a popular jazz band during the 1930s, and it's pictured here. Meanwhile, Webb's health was poor. He had been born with a disease called spinal tuberculosis. The disease made his legs weak, and the horrible pain he had felt throughout his life became worse. On June 9th, 1939, Webb went to the hospital for an operation, and he died 1 week later on June 16th. Fitzgerald honored Webb by singing at his funeral. Here's an image from Webb's funeral with Fitzgerald on the right helping comfort Webb's wife on the left. After Webb's death, Fitzgerald took over leading the Chick Webb Orchestra. The band became known as Ella Fitzgerald and her famous orchestra. Fitzgerald became the first woman to lead a jazz band. But by 1942, members of the band decided to go their separate ways. They played their last show together at the end of July. Ella Fitzgerald is quoted as saying, "Just don't give up trying to do what you really want to do. Where there is love and inspiration, I don't think you can go wrong." Here's an image after Webb's death, Fitzgerald performing with other musicians, including drummer Bill Beeson. By 1942, Fitzgerald had made 150 records. Soon, she became interested in a new kind of music called bebop. This type of jazz uses scat singing. In scat, singers use their voices to sound like musical instruments. Soon, Fitzgerald started recording scat songs. In Flying Home, Fitzgerald used words, syllables, and parts of other songs to scat. Fitzgerald became known as one of the best scat singers of her time. This picture is from the 1940s of Fitzgerald. Here is an image of her again on the cover of W New. She is quoted as saying, "I stole everything I ever heard, but mostly I stole from the horns." In November 1946, Fitzgerald went on tour with Dizzy Gillespie, a famous bebop musician. While on tour, she met a bass player named Ray Brown. Fitzgerald and Brown married in 1947. The couple adopted a son, Ray Jr., a short time later. Fitzgerald and Brown divorced on August 28, 1953. This picture shows Fitzgerald and bass player Ray Brown that were married from 1947 to 1953. In 1956, Fitzgerald recorded the first of a series of songbooks. In these song collections, Fitzgerald sang music from famous American composers. They included George and Ira Gershwin, Cole Porter, and Duke Ellington. In this picture, it shows her performing with jazz great Duke Ellington in 1970. As she grew older, Fitzgerald continued performing and recording. In the 1970s, she performed with large orchestras. By 1991, she had performed at Carnegie Hall 26 times. She had recorded at least 200 albums. In her final years, Fitzgerald's health was poor. Her eyesight was failing. In 1986, she had heart surgery. Doctors discovered she had diabetes. In 1993, they removed both of her legs because of poor blood flow. Fitzgerald stopped appearing in public after the operation. In June 15, 1996, she died at her home in Beverly Hills, California. She was 79 years old. In this image, from July 5, 1973, Fitzgerald performs at Carnegie Hall with members of the Chick Webb Orchestra. Chick Webb once warned Fitzgerald not to rise to the top too fast. By building her fame slowly, he said, she would stay on top longer. For more than 60 years, Fitzgerald sang all kinds of music, but most of all, she sang jazz. Today, many people fall in love with jazz music because of Fitzgerald. she is still on top. In this picture, she's singing in the early 1990s. A quote from Ella: "The only thing better than singing is more singing." We have some fast facts about Ella. Her full name, Ella Jane Fitzgerald. Her nickname is the First Lady of Song. She has at least 200 albums. If you're interested in these fast facts or the timeline at the back of this book, you are welcome to place this book on hold. I will check it out to you and put it out front. You can look over the glossary, the internet sites, and more books you can read to learn about Ella Fitzgerald. Thanks for listening to our breakfast biography. You all have a great day.